welcome you all to the thesis defense of Nadya Rivera Carrasquillo. And I'd like to thank very much, Alejandro Álvarez for joining us. And we will begin the defense with an introduction by Nadya so that she can explain what her project entailed and some of the issues that she ran into, and also the importance of this particular text. So thank you very much, Nadya. Would you care to begin?
Sure. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. First, can you hear me? Yes? Alejandro can hear me? Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to take this chance to thank my thesis advisor, my readers. I really appreciate your time and your help this morning. So let me just share my presentation. You let me know if you can see it. Okay. Can everyone see the presentation? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to be talking briefly about my thesis subject. It's Puerto Rican legends and traditions, a translation of excerpts from Tradiciones y leyendas puertorriqueñas by Cayetano Coll y Toste. So first, a little bit about the source text. It is a collection of Puerto Rican legends set during the Spanish colonization of the Americas. The stories are a mix of historical facts from the author's research on Puerto Rico's past and of the traditions passed down through the generations since the 16th century. Originally, the author had written 90 legends and divided them into 4 volumes in 1924. These were later organized into 2 tomes in 1928. My thesis focuses on the first volume of the 1928 version, which includes 48 legends set between 1511 and 1832. The author, Cayetano Coll y Toste, was born on November 30, 1850 in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. He studied medicine at the University of Barcelona and later returned to the island to practice his profession. He was a doctor, poet, journalist, president of the Puerto Rico Athenaeum, a gentleman of the Order of Bolivar in Venezuela, and the official historian of Puerto Rico from 1913 to 1930. One of his most famous works is the Boletín Histórico de Puerto Rico, a bulletin composed of 14 volumes that was dedicated to teaching the island's history to the public and demonstrating the findings of ongoing research regarding the accuracy of our knowledge of the past. The foreword was written by Carlos Noriega Carreras. He was a Puerto Rican journalist, poet, and writer born on the 3rd of May, 1895. He was appointed secretary of the Puerto Rico Athenaeum in 1929 and was the president of the Puerto Rico Athenaeum's section of fine arts. He was also an honorary consul of the Dominican Republic from 1930 to 1933. One of his most notable literary contributions is the Antología Completa de Poetas Puertorriqueños, which in English would be the Complete Anthology of Puerto Rican Poets, a collection of works by 144 different poets divided into 3 volumes. Now, why is this text important from the translation perspective? Coll y Toste's writings are a product of his political, geographical, and anthropological research on Puerto Rico, which gave insight to the lives of the Taino natives and the enslaved Africans, and corrected many misconceptions of the island's history. The fruits of his historical studies are reflected through the descriptions of the protagonists and events taking place in each tale. He provided names of real figures involved in Puerto Rican politics and history, wrote most dates in full detail, and mentioned real locations, which helps make the stories more believable for the reader. Coll y Toste himself wrote in an earlier version titled Leyendas Puertorriqueñas that he aimed to awaken in his compatriots a love for the study of their history by portraying historical facts in a way that sparked the interest of his readers. It is my belief that this thesis subject is a historical text that is essential for the understanding of our cultural heritage. There are three reasons why I chose this text. The first would be my personal interest in mythology. The second would be to pay tribute to my birthplace, given that I no longer live in Puerto Rico. And I took this thesis as an opportunity to share my culture, which ties into the third reason, which is to make Puerto Rican culture accessible to anyone interested in learning about it. This relates also to the author's reason for writing it in the first place, which is to share our culture. So we both share the same target audience. In my case, it would be any English speaker interested in Puerto Rican culture. Now, a little bit about the source text and the translations that I found. I found individual legends translated already, the more popular ones, such as Guanina and La Garita del Diablo. And I found a few books as well. Most of them were between 8 to 12 legends, once again, of the more popular ones. Here I have two examples, Puerto Rican Tales by Jose Ramirez Rivera and Folk Legends of Puerto Rico by Trans-Caribbean Airways. I chose to focus on the legends that did not have a published translation. I chose to translate the foreword and the following 6 legends. A Good Game of Cards, which is the romance and unlawful incarceration of a soldier. The Magic Fountain, which narrates the famous voyage of Juan Ponce de Leon for the Fountain of Youth. Becerrillo, which is a tale about a dog used in the war during the Spanish conquest. The Possessed revolves around demonomania. The Amethyst Reliquary touches upon superstition. And lastly, The Treasure of Almeida the Pirate, which narrates the origin of Caja de Muertos. Now, moving on to the translation challenges. The first one that I'd like to talk about are the names and titles. To this, I'm referring to cases of misspelling or there being more than one form of spelling a name. Here I have an example from The Possessed, page 195, section 3, where we are talking about King Charles II, also known as the Bewitched, where he is advised to hire a famous exorcist to heal him. Now here the name is written as Maura Teuda. However, in many references, including the play Carlos II el Hechizado, published in 1837, in scene 8, we see that the name is actually written as Mauro Tenda. In other cases where the spelling, there was more than one option, I just went for the more commonly used in more recent texts. The second translation challenge that I'd like to talk about is the writing style. Here I'm including grammar, vocabulary, terminology, the register. Now, aside from Coll y Toste having a tendency to repeat the same names a lot, and italicizing certain words without there being a need to be. We see in the first paragraph here to the left, where the main idea, the main sentence, it's split in the middle of a very extensive explanation in between. Now, this happens in many instances in the foreword and in the actual text, where, at least in my case, when I read it the first time, it was very hard to follow the main idea of what the paragraph was trying to talk about. So in these cases, I would either try to vary between the comma and the em dash to try to make it clear that this is an idea between the main sentence, or I would just try to kind of restructure it in a way that would make it more clear for the readers, because this could make reading comprehension a bit difficult. Now, the second paragraph below, we have an example of the author's overuse of commas. Here we see that this paragraph is divided into very small segments unnecessarily. And this, of course, could also make it a bit hard to keep with the pace of the reading. So in these cases, if there was any way I could restructure it so it didn't need a comma, I would do that. Or simply I would just eliminate the extra commas. Moving on to the terminology and expressions, the author touches upon different fields of study. Here I have 3 examples. The first word, sobrecargo, is related to sailing, demonomania to psychology, quid divinum is an expression used in philosophy. So I found many instances where I had to rely on specialized primary sources, dictionaries, encyclopedias, university textbooks, websites, anything that belonged to that field of study. Let's see. Okay. And now we move on to the words that I kept in the source language or kept in the foreign language used in the source text. Now, here I have an example of a word that I kept in Spanish, which was mulata. Now, throughout the thesis, because it is a historical text and it presents a lot of the prejudice from that time, I tried to keep a very respectful stance in any time where it was not key for the dialogue, for the mindset of the characters. I would try to use a more appropriate term. For example, instead of Indians, I would use natives. So with the case of mulata, this word is considered derogatory, but because it is commonly used in the setting of the story, I decided that the way that I could keep it respectful was keeping it in Spanish, highlighting the fact that yes, this was used in that time, but added to my glossary, which I have before the translated text, and add there that note that this was something that meant this and it is offensive right now. So that would be the end of that. Let's move on to the third challenge, which was the ambiguity. These are moments where the source text was not clear. Here I have an example from The Treasure of Almeida the Pirate, where Almeida goes to St. Thomas to find his beloved. Now, we see here that the dialogue with each M dash, it's supposed to refer to a different speaker. Now, the first one is Alida, and the second one, as I've marked here, is Almeida. Now, while one would expect that a different speaker would come in, it immediately goes to the next scene, and it's still Almeida speaking. Now, how do we know that it's not just Alida speaking again? Because in the context of the story below, we see that Miguel, the other character in the scene, is asking where she is. So this conversation is between Almeida and Miguel. So this is one of those cases where I, as the translator, decided that I needed to add information to make it clear for the reader what was going on. So we move on to the last translation challenge I would like to mention, which would be the reference materials that were unavailable. With this, I am referring to the lack of literature on a subject and being unable to verify it. Now, these 3 examples that I have are from the foreword. The first one, and one of the more difficult instances that I found, is the initiation of Hermes in the Temple of Thebes. Now, this is found in the foreword in the paragraph talking about Egyptian mythology. Now, the issue with the name Hermes was that there is no mention of this name in any references on Egyptian mythology. And those that I did find referred to him as a prince, not as a god, not as a pharaoh, someone that was relevant to being part of the more well-known figures in that mythology. Now, among the possible interpretations, which I talk a bit more in depth in my translator's preface, I concluded that it either is referring to Hermes Trismegistus for his connection with the Egyptian god Thoth, or it is an error in the source text. The second example I'd like to talk about is the sleeping Celtic women, which is mentioned in the paragraph about clairvoyance in women. Now, the issue here is that there is no mention of any sleeping women with supernatural powers in any of the Celtic myths that I had access to. So in this case, I decided to keep that literal translation and make a note of it in my preface. And the third example would be the legend of the children of the sun and moon, mentioned in the paragraph talking about the religious text called the Zenda Vesta. Here, the author mentions that this legend is a part of that text. However, in the versions of the text that I referred to, I didn't find any mention of this legend. So it puts into question where the author came up with that. So there is a mention of the sun, but not of its children. So in this case, I also kept a literal translation and made a note of it. So that would be the end of my presentation, and I look forward to hearing your feedback. There we go. I think you're muted.
Thank you very much.
Okay, there.
Yeah, I'm not anymore. Thank you very much, Nadya, for that introduction. I would like to now give the floor over to Alejandro so that he can give us his own feedback about the thesis. You're muted, Alejo. Alejo.
Ahora, me oigo.
Sí, sí, sí.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to apologize for the moving around. I'm having technical problems myself. My touch screen is locked, so I can't even unmute myself, on the computer. So I have no mouse cursor. So, sorry about that. I had to change computers. I had to open the text in my. Luckily, I have a desktop, and I was able to open your text on my desk. So sorry if you saw me moving around. I was trying to adjust to the circumstance. Apparently it's been a bad day. Well, okay. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on this work. I really enjoyed reading this in English. So as a general comment, I'm going to start off by congratulating you on a good job. Actually, most of my comments are regarding the preface more than the translation itself. And I think you have already noticed that. Let me plug my sound here for a moment. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, ahora sí.
All right. Hear you.
Yeah. Okay.
And actually, if you have any problems, you might try to turn off your camera, but I have to.
No, my camera is fine. It's my touch screen. I have no mouse or cursor, so I cannot, access anything. So I'm locked here, so I'm fine. I have the text open in my desktop right behind my laptop, so that's why I'm looking like high above. Okay, so. Yeah, I think you noticed that your preface was lacking some aspects of the text itself, and you corrected that during your presentation. I would like to see that included in your preface, in your final version, because you really addressed some of the things that the text, lacked, like these random commas out of, are appearing from nowhere, and of course there are typos or mistakes. I mean, this guy uses the comma however he likes, without any, and it's really frustrating reading it in Spanish too. So yeah. So I believe you touched them. You don't have to add much, but you add it in your presentation. You just add it to your preface, and that's it. I don't think.
Okay.
The tech. You don't need to have to do any major work, or anything like that. And also try to cut a little bit on your preface, because I enjoyed your line of thought regarding your decisions, but some, as city like thieves or denial, we kind of know you got to come up with well-known facts. So you just stick to your, now that you're going to add a lot of text, you can cut down on what you have a little bit.
Okay.
And that'll be perfect. And also, let me talk about the text itself, because maybe this text is kind of a over glorified text, in my opinion. But it does have a it does have a historical context that's important here. This text was written in a very tumultuous political context in Puerto Rico. The U.S. government had arrived around 20 years, and those first decades were not happy decades. After maybe 5-10 years of being happy because Spain left, the Spanish government left, tensions started rising among the Puerto Rican elite and the American government. And most Puerto Rican elites were looking nostalgically towards Spain, searching for deeper, more older, richer culture than the American culture. So these interest in writing these legends, they are not legends at all, as you can see, comes from this search of looking into the Spanish era in Puerto Rico as a root of Puerto Rico, as some sort of root of whatever Puerto Rican means, So that's why you see all this, little tales. They remember they're more like fable. If you can see, they're structured like fables, like Aesop fables, and they're not really legends, So that's what this is. This is some sort of a search for Puerto Rican roots, way deep, centuries old, just to say that Puerto Rican culture is older somehow than American culture, and it's actually called Hispanophilia in the literary world, and that's my second comment. That even though I commend you on your historical research, you can relax a little bit, because this is a total work of fiction. Okay, this is not a historical text at all. So maybe some of those facts that you did not find is because he made it up. He just made it up. There's no. I don't think he spent a lot of time really searching for punctual facts as a historian would do. So you can actually attribute that lack of historicity just to the fact that he just made it up. Even the preface seems a little bit, made up also. And also writer Rafael Acevedo in his novel La Flor de Ciruelo y el Viento actually makes fun it makes like a fake prologue, like evoking this sort of preface, like as the one in your translation. So so you can. I commend the fact that you did all this research work, but at the end, this is a work of fiction, and he's just doing some sort of poetic license to actually, as you can see, anchor some sort of root of Puerto Ricanness and it's really interesting, and how white and elitist this guy is. I mean, these roots are all in the classics, Greek and Roman. There's no other roots he wants. So you can see that how these people thought 100 years ago. So yeah, that said, this is a very good translation. I have just a few things to point out that are just maybe mistakes in facts and more than translation errors, but I'm gonna go one by one because in terms of grammar and syntax, it's really quite. You did a very good job to polishing up this translation. So I like the fact that you left mulata as mulata. Not only because it is offensive, it's because mulata in Spanish is just so different than mulatto in English, and the connotations are so different that I would have preferred also to leave it in Spanish. That was the right decision. Padrino, you could actually left Godfather if you wanted to. I mean, but está bien que dejes Padrino, but if you could have gone for Godfather because that's just what the Godfather is. I know Hollywood kind of tainted this notion with all the mafia movies, but that's what the Godfather is. If you're born Catholic, your padrino de bodas, which is what this padrino is, not your. It's not the best. It's more than a best man, like you say, but also he's responsible. He's responsible for that marriage. That marriage has to work, so he's a sort of a sponsor, so a moral, religious sponsor of the marriage, an economical sponsor of the marriage. So, Padrino's okay, but you could have left Godfather if you wanted to. No tienes que hacerlo. Es una. Also, let me see here. I'm glad you left the Spanish titles in Spanish, like adelantado. And all of that. I'm trying to scroll down here for a moment. Okay. Sí, cuarta is just a measure unit. And my grandfather used to ask for a cuarta de mantequilla and a cuarta de jamón in some rural panaderías, And the cuarta is just the length. Una cuarta de pan is still a measurement. So yeah, you can really leave it as cuarta. I think you did that. Entonces, en aras de is actually a fixed phrase. It's not a misspelling. It's actually a fixed phrase. And aras de means in favor of, like you say, for the sake of, or it's in favor of something. So you actually translated it well, but it's not a typo for en aras de.
Okay.
Ara, it's an altar. It's a religious altar. So something en aras de is in homage to, in favor of, or for the sake of, as you correctly translated. Also, Concha is the nickname for Concepcion. That's why Concepcion is there. If you're Spanish and your name Concepcion, you're gonna call you Concha, as we had our Concha in our program. Her real name is María de la Concepción Hernández, and that's why she's called Concha Hernández. So, but I don't mind the fact that you said Concha all the way, because there's a lack of uniformity there. And it's not a bad decision. I'm just pointing it out from your note, okay? From your preface, I'm sorry. And let me see. Yeah, let's go to the text. I'm scrolling down slowly here. I like the glossary. It's never. I like it. The fact that you added a glossary, especially with the various things that we don't talk about anymore, things that are lost over card games and things like that. So yeah, it prepared me for my reading. Okay, let me see. Why did you the races in the Vedas? Why did you italicize them? The red, the black, and the yellow.
What page are you in?
Esta es la 3 de la traducción.
Okay.
3.
Yeah, but of the translation.
Yeah, let me just.
At least the version, and at least in this version.
Sorry, I'm getting to the page.
No te preocupes, sí. No pasa.
If I'm not mistaken, the source text had it the same way. It was italicized.
Okay.
I took it as a way to like emphasize this is the term used for that race or.
Okay. That's good enough for me. But okay, sometimes you correct and you do not italicize, but okay, it was kind of curious about it.
Okay.
It actually, I think it works in a contemporary context, just to draw attention to it, because it's such a weird thing.
It is quite, and it also does not correspond with our black and white. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Okay.
No.
So I could see why maybe you want to put that on your note.
Okay, sure.
Okay, yeah. There are some small things. I'm gonna give you this in an email, and you check it out later.
All right.
Because they're really okay. On page 4 on top. Are you there? Page 4, next page.
Yeah.
On the second paragraph, you correctly translate pueblos like nations. Okay, but not on the first. So las almas de los pueblos, it's not the souls of, you can use civilizations if you don't want to repeat nations.
Gotcha. All right.
Y ya está. Sí, son cosas pequeñas, no te creas que no encontré nada, relax. Sí. Ese es el tipo de cosas que encontré, así que sigo por ahí. Okay. Mira, another thing you have to do is write on the right margin of the page, write the page on, that corresponds to the source text. It's usually a standard in our thesis. And David can help you with that later.
Okay. Some people do it and some people don't, but
a mí me gusta
just a text box.
Sí.
Yeah, all right.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Sí. En la página page 9, next to that last paragraph, let me find the source text. Give me a moment. No, I can't do it. Okay, voy a tener que abrirlo acá. No. You have a let me be cautious, Alonso. We gain nothing but inflaming my father's fury. I have surrendered to God. Y no sé por qué. I have to find the source text. I'm sorry. It's going to take me a while. Give me. I don't think she surrenders to God. Es algo como por Dios o algo así. No me acuerdo. Estos días de la tecnología me tienen mal. Es que tengo que ahora entrar a mi mail, bajar el texto en la otra computadora porque esta está trancada. Bueno. Perdonen que me vean deme un segundo, ¿verdad? Para que no me vean el close-up que estoy haciendo aquí. Oh, espérate, lo puedo buscar. No, hombre, se me ocurrió usar el iPad.
Do you have any idea what?
I don't know.
Do you have any idea what page that is in the source text?
Yeah, I'm at the page right now. Let me see if I can find.
Ese párrafo, let us be cautious. I have surrendered to God. She hasn't surrendered anything.
Yeah, okay. I found it. It is on page 69 of the PDF. 79 of the
Okay.
text.
Okay. Dame un segundo porque tengo que... ¿Me puedes leer ese párrafo?
Yeah.
Por favor, porque lo va a llegar tú antes que yo llegue allí.
Okay. So it says here.
Adiós plegue.
Okay, yeah.
Adiós plegue. Eso no es, no, es pray to God, es plegar de plegaria.
Okay, yeah.
Es pray to God, o alguna frase hecha de estas católicas, praise God, or you know, eso es lo que es. O sea,
Okay.
she hasn't surrendered to anything. That's why her father wants her out.
Praise be to God.
Yeah, I had misunderstood
okay.
because in plegar it says ceder, someterse, and I think I mistook that in plegarse for plegar, that confusion. So that's what happened. Sorry about that.
No, eso es algo bobo, relax. Sí, eso.
Okay, so let me
te tengo que marcar cosas porque si no me dicen que no me leo las tesis. Entonces, ¿lo viste?
Yeah.
Sí. Entonces, un poco más abajo, on the next page, on the paragraph before the number 3 in Romans, it's not an ordinance. Ordenanza aquí, in the Spanish says, una ordenanza vino a donde el obispo, or something like that. That's an orderly. The ordinance is the document. Pero una ordenanza, un ordenanza en español can also be a soldier that carries messages and stuff like that. So that's just an orderly. Okay. It's, you know, y arriba, esa última oración que dice Captain, take Lieutenant Alonso to El Morro. You answer me with his life. No, that's not what it says. Él dice, usted me responde de él con su vida. That means that the captain answers with his life. You know, you answer for his life with your own. That's what he's telling them. Sí. Si en otras palabras, si se escapa, te mato a ti. Okay. Algo así. Yo lo puse como que you answer for his life with your own, pero puedes frasearlo como tú quieras. Okay. Entonces, de chico,
yeah, I'm gonna have. Sorry, I'm gonna have that. I'm glad you pointed out that sentence with the ordinance. It's a little bit awkward, and I mean, part of it seems archaic, and part of it doesn't seem archaic. But I'm going to look at it again because it doesn't, there's, I mean, after some time there came, for example, it has to be restructured. But all right, I'm glad you pointed it out anyway.
No, it's easy. Instead of it's not the document, it's a messenger, it's a soldier messenger came giving word.
Well, that's ambiguous. It's actually ambiguous in the English as well.
Oh, okay.
But
a mí lo más loco es que es un soldado.
But that has to, yeah.
It's logical for me that would be a soldier instead of a document. Okay.
Yeah.
Entonces, el chico. You did it correctly. Yeah. Way at the end, you did it correctly with the chica, and you left it in Spanish, and I love that. I think you have to leave it in Spanish. This is not a boy.
Okay.
Este es el chico de chico. Like you do, and they didn't say dude way back when, so maybe leave it chico. Yeah. So leave it chico.
All right, gotcha.
Because these are buddies. These guys are buddies. It's not the boy. Boy sounds racist. Like in those centuries, it was a racist slur, like the boy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a sign of disrespect in those days, saying boy. Okay. Yeah. Sigo por ahí. I'm scrolling down. Ya con este acabé, parece. Este es algo bobo. It's a suggestion. It's not even a correction. In the Magic Fountain, casona could be. Es que casona es difícil de traducir. Because it's not a manor. You know what? Live in large house. No, because it's not a manor.
No. Well, a manor house. I don't. Yeah.
See, no, a casona is more than a large house.
Would be fine.
Okay, manor house entonces, porque
Yes.
la casona is more than a big house. It's a type of house. Sí.
Yeah, but I think manor house, it works well with it.
Sí, pues mira, David agrees. Sí, entonces, mira, en ese mismo, page 17 on top, yo no creo que el fallo, ¿verdad? The position of alguacil mayor that has failed, yo no creo que es que hubo un the government failed, yo creo que es que hubo una sentencia, un fallo del Consejo de Indias para cambiar.
Sí, una falla.
Un fallo, no es una falla, es un fallo. This is a sentence. The council ordered the government to be moved from Villacaparra to the islet of San Juan, que es el viejo San Juan ahora.
Yes.
De hecho, por la fecha estoy seguro que fue así, porque ahora mismo, esos son los 500 años que estamos celebrando ahora el año que viene, que es el cambio de sede de gobierno de Villacaparra y la fundación de San Juan como los 500 años, el 1521. Así que estoy seguro que es un fallo del Consejo de Indias, que Puerto Rico estaba bajo la jurisdicción del Consejo de Indias. Which is the Council of the Indies, which is perfect, not the Indian Council, as I've seen in horrible translations of this, of the Council of the Consejo. Okay, and on number 2 Roman, page 17, ¿cómo te explico? It's there's in colonial times there's an old San Germán and new San Germán, because San Germán was founded twice because of this change. So es como el viejo San Juan, pues el viejo San Germán el viejo.
Okay.
Because then in the 17th century hay un new San Germán, hay un nuevo San Germán. So I think the author is referring to not the port of San Germán called El Viejo, the port of Old San Germán.
Okay, gotcha.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can call it, just get rid of called and get rid of the italics.
También
San Germán el Viejo.
Eso también, that works for me too. Sí. Sí,
Okay.
y te vas a la segura. Sí. And then on page 19, right after Florida and Bimini, repites lo de fallo, by virtue of information. And decree.
Okay.
Porque la iglesia tuvo que ver con ese cambio de la sede. Precisamente el cambio de la Vía Caparra es para que hubiera una iglesia, se puede hacer una catedral.
All right.
Parte del cambio fue eso. Y ya creo que de aquí ya I'm almost done, believe me. Hay un typo ahí que escribiste Oviendo en vez de Oviedo, pero eso lo arreglas después. Okay. On page 23, este es Becerrillo. Daguao, a mí me encanta el este de Puerto Rico, y Daguao es un barrio en Aguabo, no es un río. Okay, so Daguao, es que los españoles les gustaba mucho usar el artículo con los barrios, el Daguao, y esa es una costumbre vieja que ya no hay, pero Daguao es un barrio y el ataque fue por playa. Y fíjate que abajo dice beach.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So just penetrated through Daguao y ya. Sí.
All right.
O the Daguao coast, si acaso, en vez de river.
All right.
I like the fact that you left Guasabara, which is not the same. It's kind of a revolt, but not quite. But that's our word for revolt. I like the fact that you did not translate that word. And then on 5, en la 23, you can say you can leave it saliente, but saliente means east coast. Jauregui attacked through el saliente means the east coast of Puerto Rico, because the Caribes, the Caribs attacked from the what they call the Lesser Antilles, you know. But you can leave it saliente. I mean, I don't mind. Y sí, porque después, I don't think I have much more that I remember. I'm
yeah, I just wanted to say something. Since we touched on Becerrillo, you have the term, and I didn't think about this too much, Gallics, the Gallics.
Sí.
And it should be the Gauls, shouldn't it?
For el gentilicio, sí. Gallic is an adjective, not the name of the nation. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I saw it.
Yeah, Gauls are Gallic, but they're the Gauls, yes.
Yeah, but that's an adjective, and not for the people themselves. It should be the Gauls.
Exactamente.
Okay, all right.
I'm scrolling down. Congratulations of correcting otro banda. Sí, porque es que, yeah. As you can see, he was not that thorough looking up names of stuff. It's more a work of fiction than, yeah. So yeah, it shows that you did do your homework. And I'm scrolling down, sorry. Let's see. Turks and Caicos is fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of done. I don't have anything to. The other things are very small, you know, typos and commas and stuff. I'm not gonna waste your time on. Just look it up, look at it, and you know. Sometimes you repeat times, but I'm not gonna make you go through that. Right? See, I'm done. That's what. That's what I congratulate you on, and maybe you want to talk about that on your preface. On reproducing this antiquated old style of Spanish. You really do a good job on showing that in the English. I mean, instead of adapting the language to a modern kind of phrasing, you do a very good job on maintaining that register and actually making the English seem a little antiquated also. I was almost reading a period piece, which this is a period piece after all, you know. And you can really
absolutely.
See that, and you can really see that in your work. So, and that's tough. That's very hard to do because languages have different systems of fixed phrases and, you know, unregistered. So you really did a good job on that. Yeah, let's do this, David. I'm done.
Okay. I think we're ready to let you go out of the room, so to speak. If Luis is around, is there something I'm supposed to do to get Luis? Congratulate you on a fantastic job. And I have to say that I've been very impressed from the very beginning at how much research you've done, which is really, really amazing. But what I did want to stress is that I think Alejo brought some very interesting perspectives, which I think that you should take into account. And I know that we've discussed it at one point or another, but the whole fictional quality of this, and I think his point also about national identity, being very, very key at this particular juncture because of the invasion of the United States and the subsequent colonial impact that had. So, I think that just take what he said. I think that Alejo's contribution was very, very worthwhile, and I'd like to thank him. But we've resolved that that, you know, based on the work that you've done and the work that you produced, that you absolutely deserve a sobresaliente. And I want to, you know, it's been a pleasure working with you, and I want to congratulate you.
Thank you so much.
Felicidades.
Yay.
Muchas felicidades.
Muchas felicidades. Estupendo.
Gracias.
Okay, I'd like to say goodbye to everyone and thank you all for joining us today. This was a great experience, Nadya, and I really thank you so much again.